Did you know that Final Fantasy VII and Final Fantasy X take place in the same universe?
I had no idea.
Well, let me explain it to you.
Did you know? Did you know? Did you know, my friend? All this cool shit. Sick origins of Final Fantasy. And other stuff you might not have known. But maybe you know, but that's okay. We're still gonna do a segment called Did You Know?
Do you remember the character named Shin-Ra in Final Fantasy X too?
I do. I try to block that game out as much as possible, but I do remember the little kid named Shin-Ra. What about him?
And he's like, the ship guy, right?
Right.
Well, when I first played that game, and I think when everybody first played that game, they thought, oh, it's an interesting callback to another Final Fantasy. But it actually had implications. There is a cutscene, there's a bonus cutscene you can find in Final Fantasy X too, where if you talk to the kid, he talks about how he's trying to utilize the energy of the planet to make an energy source, but it might not take generations to do. And I have a quote from the Final Fantasy Ultimania Omega book thing that doesn't come out in the States, but it's in Japan. So here's the quote. It says, Shinra is a boy who supports the Gullwings, the group which is the main protagonist Yuna belongs to. He carries a name that gives him an association to the Shinra company, and he is researching a method that could utilize the energy of the life force that flows through our planet. The result of this cannot be seen in FF10-2, but maybe one day his descendants will establish a company that supplies the energy of the planet.
Dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun. Exactly.
We should go through 10-2 and just snap his neck.
Yeah, should we? I wish you were allowed to do that. That'd
and
be
then make
sweet.
7 really easy.
I fucking hated everybody on the Gullwing ship, so I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, the only use brother has is as a blitzball player in 10. He's a real freak, though. So
exactly, and there's of course the connection between the Promised Land and the farplane. They're like both where the like projections of the dead are there, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's like a spirit land.
And it holds that kind of similar thing with the Pyreflies and everything. You kind of see like Pyrefly-like things in Advent Children. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And so the idea is that there's a connection there with the life force and all that other stuff, the life stream and all that other stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I follow.
So there's that connection too. And here's the thing. Here's the historical consequence of Shinra wanting to build this thing that supplies energy from the life force of the planet. One of the writers of Final Fantasy X-2 said on the FF10-2 Ultimania, he said, after quitting the Gullwings, Shinra received enormous financial support from Rin and began to use the Vagnagun to siphon Mako energy from the farplane, but he is unable to complete the system for utilizing this energy in his generation, and in the future, when traveling to distant planets becomes possible, the Shinra company is founded on another world, or something like that. That would happen about 1,000 years after this story, I think. Isn't that interesting? So, the idea is that they don't utilize it on the world of 10.
But they go to 7.
They go to another world, and they utilize it there.
Huh. Wait, so was the planet of 7 uninhabited before?
Well, see, that's where me and you were talking about this before, and we haven't done any research to support this or whatever. But there are the people called the Ancients, and then there are the other people on the planet.
Right, the normal
and the Ancients were dying out, right?
So
the one that me and you thought of was that perhaps the Shinra people came to the planet, and those are the people from the planet of 10.
Right, and those are the people that we know in 7, and the Ancients were the people that were there that are dying out from...
Right.
Oh, that would actually be really awesome. They're all aliens.
Wouldn't it be interesting if there was a Final Fantasy X and 7 game that brought them together, like a spin-off? That was about, coming to this new planet.
That would be probably a good spin-off.
It's like Columbus coming into the new world, and everybody else gets diseases and shit.
Yeah. That'd be pretty graphic.
I'm sure there's a history of the ancients that someone's like, no, you're all wrong, but it's an interesting thing to explore, I think.
Yeah, I don't remember anything from 7 that completely denounces the possibility.
No, it doesn't. There's alien stuff in 7 all over the place. So it's like, I mean, Genova's an alien, right?
Yeah, technically.
So the idea of, there's a lot of life in other planets in this one universe of 7 and 10.
Right.
And that just, supports it more, I think. And it's interesting that the kid on the good side of Final Fantasy X-2 is like, he makes a company that's just horrible.
Yeah.
Or he, like,
is the
his
catalyst.
influence
supports
this horrible, terrible life-sucking force of Final Fantasy VII.
Yeah. That's a good connection. That's kind of cool. I never, honestly, when I was playing 10 and 7, I never thought that there was really a connection.
Well, you just kind of have to look at 10-2, and then of course you have to have this Ultimania guide with the quote from the dude, right?
Yeah, well, I mean...
Talking about it. They talked about how they were going to explore that subject more, about how 10 and 7 were connected, but they just never did. They felt like they shouldn't have put that in the game.
They felt like they shouldn't put that in the game.
Well, they felt like they didn't have to explore it like a lot, because it didn't add to the game any.
Oh, well, what about the mobile games? Do they add to the games any?
No.
Yeah, so...
But this was 10-2. This was a big release.
Yeah, that's true.
It's just interesting because I think that might be, I mean, besides, of course, 4 and Spirits Within, which we talked about, both taking place on Earth.
A very loose connection.
In the fact that numbers 1 through 5 are basically the same story over and over again, just with different details. You notice that?
Yeah, I've noticed. Warriors of Light,
4 crystals, perhaps 8 crystals.
Yeah, it depends. It really depends.
And then they of course save and they bring balance back to the Force.
Which is a cool storytelling thing, but
right. And it got a little old, and that's why they stopped.
It is, yeah.
But so I don't know. It's the only time that we've ever seen a connection like this, I think, in the series. And that connection is very deep within it. I mean, if you're just playing the game, you wouldn't know unless you did some research.
Yeah, well, if you got the quote in 10-2, you would definitely know. And you
would think it was the same universe, but the guy says that
it is.
Kazushige Nojima says that it's a separate planet, or
yeah,
could possibly be a separate planet where they travel to.
Right.
Instead.
Which is weird because there's no advancement technologically from 10 to 7's time, really? There's not
there
that
must
difference.
Be, because there's some kind of there's space travel and shit like that.
In 7,
they must have obviously brought back.
They're really bad at space travel in 7. They really fuck it up. And yeah, but I mean that's just weird to me. Same thing with some other fantasy series like Game of Thrones. They talk about the past, or in 7, for instance, say 10 is 1,000 years prior.
Uh-huh.
Is there really 1,000 years with the technological advancements from 10 to 7? I mean,
it could just be like the Dark Age. Of course, there's
maybe they lost it, kind of like with mankind. We lost it for a while because we went retard mode.
I feel like, well, it's not like 10 had huge technological stuff. I mean,
true.
What was it? The Al-Bhed? Was it the Al-Bhed?
Yeah.
The Al-Bhed had used machinery, right?
Yeah, they used the Machina.
The Machina. So they were the ones that were technologically advanced. And of course, the city of Xanarkand was very technologically advanced. And they lost that with Sin. Because Sin would attack wherever there was machinery, right?
Yeah. It's the whole 10 story is really weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. It's really in-depth. And you can, look up shit to, explain some of the aspects of it. But
yeah, but it's...
shouldn't have to.
dream world, stuff like that. But yeah, essentially...
Dream worlds, and then your main character, spoiler alert, is a ghost, and...
well, sort of. He's a memory.
He's a memory.
Which is even worse.
It's the Sixth Sense, really.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've never seen this kind of connection before, but I was trying to get to this point. You're looking at Versus 13 as if it's like, they're in the same universe. 15 is in the same universe as 13.
Right.
And so it seems like it's something that's new, but it's actually not something that's new. It's something we have seen in the series before.
Yeah.
With this specific connection.
Right. And I mean, like you said, the first 5 games, honestly, they look very similar. Although 4, they do say it's on Earth, so.
Right.
I don't know. Those ones don't matter
Earth
as
was
much.
with a second moon, and the continents are totally different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. But,
Maybe they just call it Earth.
maybe just cause.
Maybe just 'cause.
Yeah.
I don't know. But anyway, yeah, that's the connection between 7 and 10. It's a very small connection, but it's an interesting one, and I think they could expand it.
I think they could, and it would be very interesting. I mean, the ancients and I think they should expand more on the ancients. I mean, they talk about it in 7, but I think it would be cool to see them come from 10 if this is actually what is supposed to happen, which it seems that way. And what happens to them, like you talked about with the disease and shit. I bet you that was probably a lot of it.
Or war or something.
Or war, yeah. They don't seem to be very warrior type, those ancients. So.
Probably not.
So maybe it's like ancient Greece where they're really cultured and they just get dominated by Rome. Of course, everyone got dominated by Rome. So
That's true. Everyone.
Very interesting connection between 7 and 10. I'm glad we.
Yeah, this
into
was something
that.
I wanted to do an episode on, just on a regular episode on before, but it's kind of a small subject, so I figured this Minisode would be a good place to do it. If you guys have any thoughts you want to add to this, of course you can email us, and we'd love to talk about it on our show, on our next episode.
Yeah, anything else you guys noticed, let us know.
Yeah. All right, we'll see you guys. We'll see you tomorrow.
Oh yes.
This has been another production of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast. The show was produced by Joseph DeGollier and Caleb Schweiss, with music and editing by Joseph DeGollier, parodies and clips from their respective authors, of course. You can get all of our episodes as well as our Let's Plays at ultimafinalfantasy.com. You can also contact us on Twitter at UFF Podcast, as well as our contact page on our website. Be sure to subscribe and review our podcast. Your reviews may get read on the show, and look forward to the next episode of Ultima Final Fantasy, the Ultimate Final Fantasy Podcast.